of silence. The toughest cop in the world just got tougher.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 1985 classic Chuck Norris film, Code of Silence. The film is directed by Andrew Davis and stars, of course, Chuck Norris, as well as Henry Silva and Dennis Farina. Right. The film focuses on Chuck Norris's character, Eddie Cusack, who is a sergeant in the Chicago Police Department. And it is his job to kind of stop a gang war. There's a gang war that has broken out, and he's kind of right in the middle of it, and he's got to try and save lives. A young lady who is the daughter of a family that's been massacred by a gang lord, played by Henry Silva. But at the same time, he is not particularly well liked with his cop friends on the force, because there is a police officer who wrongly killed someone at the scene of a crime and planted a gun on him. Chuck Norris knows, even though he can't prove that he's a bad cop, and turns his back on him, but the rest of the force kind of defends this cop. So he's got this battle going on at the same time. Right, what are my thoughts on Code of Silence? Well, as you know, if you follow the channel, or if you haven't been following the channel, I have been covering a lot of Chuck Norris films over the last few weeks, stroke months. I'm revisiting a lot of Chuck Norris's old filmography. Many of them I used to watch years ago, but I truthfully haven't watched many of them for a long, long time. And this is one of them. I think I've only seen Code of Silence once. I could be wrong. And I remember back in the day, probably not appreciating it as much as I certainly did this time round anyway. And I've got like more context with this film as well, if you like, because Andrew Davis obviously is a very talented director who went on to direct Above the Law, Under Siege, The Fugitive, and after recently rewatching and reviewing Above the Law stroke Nico for this channel, it was interesting to find that there were real comparisons between that film and this film. And it is incredibly obvious when you watch this film that they are two very, very similar films. Same director, obviously. I suspect much of the crew is very, very similar as well. A lot of the actors that appear in this was also in Above the Law. Remarkably, how many actors are in the two films. It's quite jarring actually when you watch this, especially after watching Above the Law so soon before watching this. And the soundtrack is very, very similar, set in the same city. They are almost, even though the plots are different slightly, they are almost identical films in many, many ways. I just found that really quite fascinating. But essentially, this is a really good, gritty cop drama with, a very honest cop played by Chuck Norris, who is always trying to do the right things, going up against a fairly corrupt police department, but many of them are just kind of misguided and just supporting this corrupt police officer through like blind loyalty. But he's still doing the right things, or trying to do the right things, Chuck Norris. It's got some really good action scenes in this, which you would expect from Andrew Davis. He's always had a real talent and a knack for, putting quite gritty and realistic action scenes on screen. He's done it throughout his career. It's almost like when you watch his action scenes, they don't register as action scenes almost. It's quite odd how he does it. There was a really impressive sequence in this with Chuck Norris fighting on top of a train, and just the way it was filmed, he's on top of a train. Some nice stunts here as well, some nice gunplay. The dialogue, while a little bit cheesy here and there, is pretty good. I was a little bit, I don't know what the right word is really. I was hoping to see more of Dennis Farina in this film. I've always liked him. My understanding is as well that, did he used to be a cop? Something like that. I think so anyway. And I've always liked him in movies, and this may have been one of his earlier roles, but I would have liked to have seen more from him in this film. But this is really not getting away from the fact that this is Chuck Norris's film. And while he just play like this cop, you know, that plays by the rules, and he just cannot be corrupted in any way, you still kind of get to see the Chuck Norris we all know and love. We see him doing his martial arts. There's a great bar fight scene. And what's great about Chuck Norris as well is he doesn't pretend to be Superman in these movies like Seagal and people like that, who, generally speaking, will never take a punch or look like they're going to get hurt or beaten. Chuck Norris gets the crap beaten out of him in this film in that great bar fight scene. Not before him doing a lot of damage beforehand. And yeah, it's a bit dodgy and a bit cheesy. It's one of those fight scenes where he's surrounded by about, I don't know, 15 men, maybe more, and they're all coming at him one at a time. So yeah, it's something you probably wouldn't get away with so much these days, but it works in this film. But he does, you know, evidently get overpowered and things like that in that fight scene. Like I say, he gets the crap beaten out of him. And it's a barnstorming finish to the film, you know, Chuck Norris, a one-man army going up against, you know, the bad guys. It's just, I didn't like it then when I first watched Code of Silence, and I didn't like it now. It kind of takes this weird remote-controlled police tank with him when he takes on the bad guys at the end, and it's just crap. You know what I mean? It just didn't work for me. It just looks odd. It didn't work, and you could see straight away when it's introduced into the film about an hour early at like this demonstration for the police. You know damn well that it's going to turn up later in the film. You know what I mean? It's so obvious. So some of the stuff there in the film, you're kind of like, well, yeah, that's just a bit massively predictable. But for me, I think this is one of the most enjoyable Chuck Norris's films I've seen. Certainly recently, revisiting many Chuck Norris's films, it's much better than I remembered from the 80s. And I did enjoy Chuck Norris's character here as well. There are some good moments for this character, and there's some good moments in this film. And if you've seen Above the Law, Stroke Nico, and you really enjoy that film, and you've never seen Code of Silence, I urge you to watch this film, because you'll be like, wow, the similarities are really quite unbelievable at times, in actual fact. So yeah, check out Code of Silence if you've never seen it. Definitely one of Chuck Norris's classics. And don't forget to check back on the channel for loads more reviews and content very soon.